Yo, what's going on, everybody? How you doing? How is your day? How is your Thursday? Mine is going good. It's odd to see just me here without Jay. Jay could not make it to the show today. His family was sick. His wife was sick, so family duties come before the show, and so it's just going to be me today. Also, on top of the screen, explicit content warning, explicit language warning. I was informed that some of the active watchers don't like that I throw a particular word out there or a particular phrase. And if that offends you, I'm sorry. I will do my best to calm that down. But other words like ass, shit, and fuck will keep coming. But I'll try to limit the GD, okay? Today, we got an awesome guest. We got a good buddy of mine. I met him when I was in the Army at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and we met through some mutual friends. He was a massive wrestling fan. Little did I know he was actually an independent professional wrestler. And today, that is Mr. President Pat Powers.
Hey, what's going on, Sean? What's going on,
What's going
everybody?
on,
Yeah,
man?
yeah,
Yeah,
man.
yeah,
Thank you for having
man.
me on.
It's crazy.
Yeah, like you said, we met in good old Fort Bragg, North Kakalaki. And then yeah, that's when I got my roots in independent pro wrestling. But yeah, massive fan ever since I was about 7 years old. Love it to this day.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And we have a lot to cover and lots to talk about. Um, and we'll talk a little bit about your time in the Army as well as training to be a professional wrestler and then and then coming out to be a independent professional wrestler. My man, like some of the work that you've done and that I've seen you do is just outstanding, and I
Thank
love
you.
it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So, Pat, give us a little bit about yourself, man.
Yeah, so I'm currently in Omaha, Nebraska. I've been here since 2015. Um, Originally from California, 7-year Army veteran, uh, dad of 2 daughters that I love deeply. And yeah, I'm an independent professional wrestler. Been doing it since 2013.
Sick. Yeah, man. That's about the time that I met you, man. That's crazy.
Yep. I was greener than baby shit starting out in North Carolina, and it was a tough thing to balance. Like you're in the Army, right, and you got all that Army bullshit you got to do, and then Wednesdays, Sundays, and then there was one more day in there, but trying to balance that and going to wrestling school and not letting everyone know, like in your chain of command, like, yeah, this is what I'm doing. Oh, how'd you get that black eye? What the hell happened?
I fell down the stairs. Sorry,
Yep.
guys. That's the nice little disclaimer. I fell down the stairs.
Yep.
Um, yeah, man, and that's one thing, man. Like, and we'll get into that. There's a very specific story that I remember that I want to talk about. I think you know what I'm
Absolutely.
talking
Yeah. I want
about.
to.
Yeah. But so, what is your very first memory in life of professional wrestling? What made
Oh,
you fall in love with it?
hands down. If anybody wants to follow my, Facebook page or whatever, I got a photo on there. At the time, my grandparents were living in uh, Arizona, and it was in Mesa, Arizona. And this had been like, oh gosh, 96. So they actually took me to, at the time, they had the Warriors gym in Arizona, and I think it was Glendale, Arizona. But it was Ultimate Warriors gym. This is when he was done with WWF, and he was having his, wrestling school / gym. And we just went there with just going to the gym, not knowing that the Warrior was there. There was no social media, meet and greet, publicity, or nothing like that. And we were there at the Warriors gym, and my grandfather, he was from Scotland, very deep Scottish accent, and I just remember to this day, he's like, "Holy shit, it's the fucking Warrior!" I'm like, "What? It's the Warrior, son!" And then I just remember, like, in the eyes of like an 8-year-old, looking down at the shoes, and I remember he having this massive dog, right? So it's the shoes going up, and there's this big old dog. It could have been just a regular dog at the time, but in my eyes, I'm like, oh, it's the Ultimate Warrior. That's a big fucking dog. And he has like a big old freaking leash, and it's the Ultimate Warrior. Not a hit or miss that he could or could not be there. And I just remember, my grandfather saying, Mr. Warrior, my son would like to meet you. Is that okay? And he's like, absolutely. Let me pick you up. Picks me up, puts me on his freaking bicep. And I just remember him to this day saying, I'm going to rub my warrior energy in you and you'll be a warrior forever. So at that moment, I was hooked. Gosh, there was another time my dad tells a story. It was big old VHS camcorders, and he was recording doing family home videos. And it was like the Super Bowl. It was like the Niners versus somebody. And he's like, hey, Pat, who's going to win the Super Bowl? I'm like, the Ultimate Warrior. So like ever hooked ever since then. But yeah, that was my earliest memory.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, there were a few wrestlers that a lot of kids would follow. Obviously you've got your Hulk Hogan's, but Ultimate Warrior was another huge one.
Yeah, man, you could say that was like, you had your Austin and Rock, but during that short time you had, Hogan and Warrior, because my opinion, that was the only guy that was really matching to Hulkamania. It was like really
Yeah.
split if you look back at that WrestleMania. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I grew up a Hulk Hogan fan, and then when I became an adult, I became a Macho Man fan.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Really like
I
Macho.
learned. I love me some Macho Man.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But so throughout your childhood, like moving past that when you started like developing a love for professional wrestling, maybe even into your teen years, who did you like to watch?
So, you got like when you're like a little kid, you like the guys that are like what you see on TV. But like when you get into the teenage years, I would say like, okay, this is the guy that makes me kind of want to be a professional wrestler. So
Yeah,
Hogan, Warrior, Savage, those were like my fantasy guys on a different category. But like in high school, man, Eddie, Benoit, really liked me some Jericho.
yeah,
Uh, WrestleMania 20 is my hands down favorite WrestleMania. And, I was like a sophomore in high school. So it's like you're getting close to senior year. Like, wow, I really, really want to do this. But like that was, yeah, Benoit, Eddie, Jericho. Those were my guys that I was like, okay, this is like something I would like to do.
absolutely. And then WrestleMania 20 at the end, getting that opportunity to see Eddie and Benoit at the ring in the ring at the same time, both holding the top crowns of the business, was absolutely massive.
Oh, yeah, phenomenal. Phenomenal. Because,
Yeah, I
yeah,
got you. I
Eddie won it like the month prior, and then
mhm.
get Benoit. So it was like nice to see them get their
Yeah,
flowers. Sure.
I watched WrestleMania 20 right before this last WrestleMania, and it gave me chills because I was like, "Damn, dude, I forgot like how that feeling."
Oh, yeah, the hype for it. I mean, Goldberg and Lesnar, they didn't pull through really at that Mania, but the hype for that, right? And then, Taker coming back as the dead man. You're like, oh, what's it going to be? He's the American Badass. And they just, no promotional photo of him. It was just him haunting Kane. Like, is this good? And then Paul Bearer. I'm like, man.
Yeah, that actually reminded me. What you just explained reminded me again of WrestleMania 28 when it was Triple H and Undertaker and Hell in the Cell.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and like he showed up, but he didn't show his hair. You can only see from like here
Yeah.
down, and then when he pulled the hood back, and then you seen just the bald head with the mohawk. You're like, oh shit,
Man,
what
Triple
happened?
H had that like look like what are we doing here? Yeah, oh yeah, that was a dope
Yeah,
WrestleMania. Like the Hell in a Cell comes down and they
yeah,
play
yeah,
the Metallica song, and I'm like, man, yeah.
yeah. Yeah. And then moving along, and we'll talk about another WrestleMania later on because it kind of ties in with this. But uh, what made you want to join the army, man?
Honest to God, at the time with my ex-wife, we had my oldest, and I met her in California, and that's how I came here in Omaha. My oldest was born here, so this is why I'm in Omaha. But it was a believe it or not, I wanted to like see if I could make it on my own, not join the army. My dad always kind of tried to push that a little bit when I was young because he's in the army. I was working at Costco and Menards doing 2 dead end jobs, and it was really tough. So, honest to God, man, that's why I really joined. And a little bit of tradition, but more so, it was to feed my family. So, yeah, that's why I joined the army.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I understand that. I hear a lot of different stories about that and many different reasons. So you joined the army. Where did you go? Where did you do basic and your AIT at?
Yeah. So my first basic, I went out to what old Fort Relaxing Jackson, and then to Fort Lee, Virginia. First duty station was Fort Riley, Kansas. I love Kansas. I actually really like Fort Riley. They always say
Okay.
like from military man to military man, good leadership will make it and bad leadership will break it. I always would have said I probably would have stayed maybe a little bit longer if I got to still stay in Fort Riley. But I remember getting orders because I re-enlisted after Iraq, and I remember getting orders to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and I just remember whoever I forget. Brain drop a lot of stuff, but I'm messaging whoever I'm messaging who gave me the orders. I'm like, oh man, come on, is there anywhere else? I'll even take Korea. Just heard bad things about Fort Bragg. Like, please, anywhere else about Fort Bragg? And it was kind of like a silver lining because before that, I was always looking for wrestling schools here and there. It just never, fell in place
Yeah.
for whatever reason. Uh, Backtrack if you don't mind me a little bit, but
Yeah.
when I was in California before I moved to Nebraska, there was a old wrestling promotion out in Hayward, California. I believe, God, I forgot what it's called, but it was ran by Roland Alexander, and he was in that old documentary Beyond the Mat. Um,
Yep.
he trained, Great Khali, Crash Holly, all that stuff. And I remember throwing a MySpace message at him, and he actually called me. He was like, "Yeah, I'd like to give you a shot. Come on down." And mind you, this is 2006, 2007. And he's like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, be $4,500 down payment." I'm like, "What?" And this is a guy who's like broke. I'm like, oh man,
Yeah.
that's not going to happen. So
Yeah.
fast forward back to what I was originally saying. I was like, no, nothing, anything but Fort Bragg. Come on, I'll take Korea. I will go anywhere. I just don't want to go to Fort Bragg.
Yeah.
But lo and behold, the rest was history. Found a wrestling school. Yeah. So
Yeah. And you have a special moment that's kind of attached to Fort Riley.
yeah, yeah.
Yes, you do. And this is one of the things that sticks out in a memory of mine when you and I first met. You were like, I am featured on an episode of Raw. And I was like, what?
Yep. That is
Like,
a
no way. No way.
no, yeah, that's a true story. It was Memorial Day, and I was on my R&R from Iraq. Luckily, Raw was on Memorial Day, and
Yeah.
and my ex-wife got me tickets, and my buddy's like, he was a vet at the time, and he's like, man, you should show up. It's Memorial Day. We got front row tickets. Be in uniform. I'm like, I don't know, man. He's like, dude, come on, just do it. And I remember, being in uniform and literally front row, and it was R-Truth versus Cena in the main event. And this is the part that's on air. He comes down there and he's in the ring and he like glances at me, and then he comes back down. This is live, and he kind of gives me the shout out, puts his arm over me, and JR and King is talking about that. But when the cameras went off the air, they had some type of dark match, but then Cena came out, got me over the barricade, and we're posed with the WWE title. So that was pretty legit. I was like, man, this is cool. This is cool. And, morbid, we're vets, but luckily, God bless, nothing happened in this particular incident. But I'm like literally putting Facebook on there, like, yeah, this is amazing. Got to meet John Cena, corny as hell. But
Yeah.
like they stood up watching because they knew I was going to be at Raw, the bros back in downrange. But they didn't literally like when I was on there, they took a mortar attack. And they're like, "God damn it, Powers, you jinxed us, son of a bitch!" Yeah,
No way.
they gave me shit, but no one was hurt that time. But yeah,
Wow, dude, that's wild. That
yeah,
is wild. Cool story, man. Like that's an awesome story. That's
yeah.
really it's really awesome. So you moved to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. You're doing the army thing. When and how did you find the wrestling school?
Yeah, so I saw an advertisement uh, for Ring Wars Carolina,
Mhm.
and it was in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And then I was like, oh, wow, what the hell is this? Like,
Good old Vietnam.
yep, Vietnam. And I was like, man, should I do this? And I'm messaging, and they're like, yep, $150, deposit, and it would be $75 a month. Train 3 times a week. And I was like, this ain't bad at all. So I had to muster up a little bit. I go down there and it's at a Gold's Gym. I'm like, what? This wrestling school's at a Gold's Gym? But it was like
Right.
in a side shack area of this gym, they were subleasing, and basically it was an area that the Gold's Gym wasn't using. And it was
Yeah.
hotter and shit in there. But my first day in wrestling practice or training, a guy named he was the assistant trainer. His name was Hang Time. And he was like, hey, how bad do you want this? How bad do you want this? I was like, I really want this really bad. And he's like, okay, well, we're going to, come on in. And they're doing warm-ups, and he wouldn't allow me in the ring. He's like, all right, go lay down on the floor, do this, tuck your chin, and just put your hands on the mat or on the ground and get up when I tell you to get up. So I was doing that forever. And then I get in the ring, and he's like, all right, they're going over the bumps. And he gave me shit because it immediately clicked. He's like, have you done this before? Do you know what you're doing? Like, why are you doing it so well? I was like, I don't know. I'm a super fan. At the time, I'm really in shape. I'm in the army, so maybe I'm just getting it that way. And he's like, okay. Didn't really believe me, but it was a chop class, like
Mm.
initiation, something that probably wouldn't fly today.
Yeah.
Everyone had to chop you left hand, right hand, and overhand. Now, I was always a big wrestling fan. I knew WWF. I knew WCW. Didn't really know too much of ECW. It just wasn't in my area.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
to get their pay-per-views was tough. You had the right. Yeah, I think they were barely on TNN, but I just made a joke. I was a little cocky. I was like, all right, yeah, everyone's in here. Yeah, I'll take on that Dr. Phil looking guy too. This big old bald headed guy. That guy ended up being C.W. Anderson. And I didn't know who C.W. Anderson was.
Oh my god.
And he was playing along. He's like, okay, yep. And then holy, like a shotgun blast, man. Like pow, 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 pow. Yeah, and I wish I had the photo, but I'm like, I'm purple.
Oof.
But the guy who had the top, that was just the assistant trainer. The guy
Yeah.
who ran this show was Steve Carino,
Oh.
former ECW
Yeah.
champion. And he would have his stuff in Fayetteville, and then he would have his shows out in Hubert, North Carolina
Yeah.
for PWF. But that was in May of 2013. And then, it was starting off small. You're going to be a security guard. Okay, you're going to go from security guard to referee. Okay, now you're going to, get squashed in certain things. And then my big break was this had to be in November 2013. I got lucky. A guy no-showed in a tag team. And I was like, hey, I'm here. I got my gear. I'm ready. And then, that's when I had my first match in November 2013.
Nice. How was that first match for you, man?
Oh, man, that was looking back. You look back at anything you do for the first time, and you're like, oh, man. But I thought I was living on cloud nine. It was fun. I was just like, oh man, this is my moment to learn everything that I've learned. Um, but looking back, I'm like, oh my god, that match was so bad.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And the crazy thing is, like, there were so many people that were in the army that were wrestling.
Yeah, yeah, there was a decent amount in Fort Bragg. Uh,
Y-
some were
Yeah,
really
there was.
proud of it. Some were like, "Oh, what are you doing? Why are you doing this?"
Yeah, there was a guy that I was in that was in my battery that was a wrestler, Borges. Um,
Yeah, 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 yeah. Hector.
yeah, Hector. Yeah, yeah. He was in my battery, and so when I seen him at one of the shows I came to, I was like, "What? No way!" Right? And then I
Yeah,
seen him at work. He's like, "You don't say anything. You
yeah,
don't say anything." I was like, "All right,
yeah. And he was
nothing."
pretty good. He got like a couple of Impact gut check tryouts. He
Yeah,
was good. He was good. I think he's retired now.
yeah.
But yeah, yeah, he was a good dude.
Yeah, yeah, and so in the army, for anybody who doesn't know, if you're in the military or the army, it's hard to have a second job outside of the army, right? Like they look at that and they say, is it going to impact your performance at work? And so a lot of people, when they do these things, they don't disclose to their chain of command what happens. Is that something that you went through?
I never disclose it to any uh, higher ups.
Yeah,
You kind of have a code. There was a couple of soldiers that ended up finding out, and they were always like, "Oh man, this is what you do. This is what you do," and stuff like that. Luckily, I never caught grief for it, or anybody really super questioned it. It was kind of like one of those things, like, yeah, you could do what you do, but army comes first.
yeah.
There was one incident where I actually got recalled to come back, but I made it work. That was tough. That
Mm,
was tough because we were on a QRF.
mm,
Yeah, yeah, QRF, and it was just some drill, and I was like, man, and they're like, yeah, I got to come out here, you got to do the thing, and I'm like, this was at a gimmick at Steve Carino's deal out in Hubert. We were
yeah.
called the Law. We were basically unruly policemen. This is a funny story. So we get recalled, and we didn't think how long it was going to be. They said it shouldn't take too long, but we had to just come up, report. It was basically a squad check. Hey, everyone's here. Okay, then go do your thing, come back. So we're driving. We're in gimmick, right?
Yeah.
Batons. We have brass knuckles. We have chairs. We're in police get up, looking like high tech policemen. With
Yeah.
my freaking luck, we go through main gate, and I just see the MP doing this. I'm like,
Oh,
what the heck? We pull over to the side. They put the cone in the front, put the cone in the back. Yeah, license, registration, all that good stuff. Yeah, we're gonna have to check your vehicle. Come on, step outside. We're like, God damn it. Mind you, we're in police outfits. We
yeah.
come out of the car, and they're like just looking at us, the MPs, and then the the civilian cops, and they're
Yeah.
like, "All right, do you have any weapons in the vehicle?" Well, kind of. So, like, what do you mean, kind of? I was like, nothing. I'll go boom. They're like, okay. They open the trunk, and they're like brass nuts, nunchucks, freaking a nightstick, and they're like, "Can you explain any of this?" And they're like, "We wrestle," and then
Yeah.
when you can explain wrestling to a fan or a wrestler, they'll get it. But no amount of evidence to explain to a non, or they gave two shits about. They're just like, "What? You wrestle? Like what?
Yeah.
Like WWF?" Like, I was like, "Yeah, man, just like that." And
Yeah.
they're like, "Oh, okay." So we end up going to the formation, getting recalled. Uh, we're quickly ran to get dressed, and then they check us out, and then back in the car going like freaking 85 all the way to Hubert. But yeah, that was a fun little story of conflict of interest between the army and wrestling.
Yeah. There was one conflict of interest that I I remember. You had called me, or you had messaged me, or we had checked in or something, and you were like, "I broke my collarbone."
Yeah.
And I was like, "What?" And you were like, "I broke my collarbone." I said, "How'd you do that? Tell the story, because you're better at telling it than I am."
Well, trying to remember. I believe we were playing. It was actually uh, flag football PT. I think my mind's all jogged up, but it was actual military PT. They want to do
Yeah,
flag football, and I just fucked that up. But I still had wrestling, right?
yeah,
And I'm like, man, I'm just starting out. This is probably 6 months in. It all works out in the end, but yeah, I'm just like, oh no, what do I do? What do I do? And then I go to the doc, and I end up going to the major, and he's like, yeah, you're probably gonna need surgery on this, man, because when I initially broke it, good old military docs, they put a half-ass sling on there, call it a day, get back to work. Well, that was causing, the support up here. I was getting really bad shoulder pain. And they're like, oh, well, your broken collarbone's causing this shoulder pain. You're getting slap tears and all that good stuff. So, like, all right, you're going to need surgery. So they do surgery. And I'm like, man, what's the recovery time? Like, oh, you can't do nothing for like 5 months. This is dead man's profile. Well, I was like, nah, give me 4 weeks. I'm going to be wrestling.
yeah.
Probably shouldn't have. I was wrestling at the time, but then going to the army. Oh my
Mm.
God. But I got a
Man,
good, nice percentage for it now because I happen on the army side. So
that is awesome. That is awesome. Yeah, man. And so you transition out of the army and you move back home and you develop this character called President Donald or President Pat Powers. What
yeah,
is, I know what it's about, but explain it. I like
yeah,
it.
no. So it's time to get out, right? I got out of the army, and getting wiser and knowing where everything's at. I knew that there was a wrestling company out in at the time, Council Bluffs, Iowa. The Army PWP Live that I continue currently still in a part of. I Facebook them. Hey, this is who I am. Trained Steve Carino, C.W. Anderson, did Ricky Morton stuff, Bret Hart stuff, and they're kind of giving me like, oh yeah, kid, we've heard that before. Come on down. I do a camp. Um, just nail out of the water. Right. Next show, they're trying to think of a gimmick for me, and they're like, yeah, we want you to be kind of like Bo Leave, but we want to
Yeah.
be like you're everyone's hero. So I was like, okay. I came out to the song "Hero" from the Spider-Man soundtrack. You know. I was like, okay, I'm getting it. I'm being very, I'm your
Yeah.
hero, pat on the back, all that good
Mm.
stuff. And it's going a little bit, and I'm like, so this is 2015. We saw the Donald Trump, coming down the escalator, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm running for president." And I'm like, "Okay." And I really like Bob Backlund in '94, where he's like went crazy, and he's like, "I'm
Mm.
gonna run for president." I'm like, "Let
Yeah.
me combine those together," And they're like, "All right." So I started coming out to Bonnie Tyler, holding out for a hero, and I was President Pat Powers. That was it. Got me over that they hated me. They did not like me. Um, I won the title like within my first year here. I was such a good heel at the time. Had so many threats. We're at a Cinco de Mayo show, and this was in Cinco de Mayo show, and I had a partner named Preston Maxwell, and this was for another company called Magnum. We were the PP Connection, and we're just on the mic, just doing our shtick, getting the crowd to hate us. And I get on the microphone, and I was like, "Happy Cinco Day, deported," and the crowd like loses their mind. Yeah. They're throwing batteries in there. I leave. They think my friend is me, and this lady wants to like stab him, thinking he is me. some drunk lady. And
Oh my God.
mind you, full disclosure, that's not who I am. But you got to be a villain. You got to do it right. So it went really well. But yeah, that's gosh, I got to wrestle Colt Cabana in my we call our big like WrestleManias anniversaries out here for PWP. So this is like there's anniversary like 10, 11, 12, 13. It's just the anniversary of when they started. I wrestled Colt Cabana in 2016, that anniversary with that character. And I was, doing smear campaigns on him. I was like, Colt Cabana, you jaywalk, Colt Cabana. just Colt Cabana listens to Rebecca Black Friday on Thursdays. And I was just like, and then I got so over. It was funny. And then I got next year, I got to do something with Shane Douglas, and I got to do a match with Al Snow. So that character really helped me start out for sure out here in Omaha.
Nice. Yeah, you drew some massive heel heat.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely, definitely. And
That's awesome.
you get so over as a heel, fans start to respect that,
Hmm.
and then they start cheering you. And then they're starting cheering you more, and you're like, okay, I got to pretty much go shoot this guy for them to really hate me. So it gets tougher, but then you got to, they're booing you out of the respect out of it, but they're like, man, we want him to turn face now, like
Yeah.
so. Then there came that point to turn face.
Nice. Nice. So you turn face. Tell us about that. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so this was I had a partner. His name was
Hmm.
Devin Carter, and he was the vice president. Became the presidents of wrestling, and he was
Nice.
a VP DC. Every match you saw the writing on the wall, like I'm costing matches, putting us in precarious matches, and he's like, I'm not liking this. Well, we lose the titles, and he turns on me, and then I just basically all right, you turned on the president of wrestling. I was at the time clean cut, parted hair. I'm like, man, all right, I can never really get away from the USA American character. I'm like, what can I do to make this different? You've had your Sergeant Slaughters, you've had your Mr. America, stuff like that. I was like, what about a disgruntled war veteran? Could resonate with that. People could relate to that.
Yeah.
It's different. No one does a war veteran character. So
Mm.
that's where that came into be. I grew out my beard a little bit, and I was like, all right, come out to paint it black. Got an old, found an OD green jacket at Walmart. Took a whole bunch of patches that I've had that I've, just picked up over the years. Sew those on. I was like, all right, I'm Pat Powers, militant madman. Here we go. And so that's how that started.
Nice. Nice. So being that you fulfilled successful heel roles and face roles, what do you find you enjoy better?
Oh man, it is easier to be a heel.
Yeah.
Um, Definitely easier to be the heel. I feel people definitely got a lot of heel in them.
Yeah.
Um, it's people don't like shit shoved down their throat when you're a good guy pandering to people. Like, hey, like me for this, like me for that. Heels kind of just, I feel like the pressure's off and they just say it how it is. Hey, if you don't like me, bite me type of
Yeah.
deal. Ace is like, I want to be liked so bad. Uh, and you're just kind of going to get liked anyways as a heel that does there's stuff. So definitely for sure heel, but I found my niche definitely being a face. Definitely got to change the styles. I was really big on selling. That was my thing.
Yeah.
For people that don't watch this, selling is the art of being really hurt in the ring and facial expressions. Watching the good sellers of like Ricky Morton. Ric Flair, he's actually an underrated seller. How he would
Yeah.
like fall on his back sideways and just scream Jesus and help me, and and then got like
Yeah.
Dolph Ziggler, The Rock, and so yeah, that's fun too, being the face.
One of the, I would have to say one of my favorite sellers currently on WWE's roster is Austin Theory. And when I talk when I have a live wrestling show on Sundays, and whenever we get to a portion where we're talking about Austin Theory, I'm like, that man is such a great seller. Anything he does, that dude's selling his ass off.
Yeah, he's really good. That was maybe a little oversell, but when he took that stunner from Austin at Mania, I was like, oh man.
Yeah, yeah, dude. Last week he got his at what I don't think it was. It might have been last week. He faced Sheamus because Grayson Waller like forced him to take his place, and just the sell job that he did for Sheamus, and then like he's outside of the ring looking at Grayson Waller. He's like, "Why are you doing this to me?" And it's like, it's
Oh yeah.
coming. It's coming. The breakup's coming, and it's gonna be beautiful.
But it was like man, the stuff that I did as President Pat Powers, I don't know if it could fly this day and age because we had that cancel culture, man.
Yeah,
Uh, Anybody that could look at it, if you go on Facebook, search up Omaha scanner. It's like I don't know if you guys have in your towns, but every like city kind of has
yeah,
somebody that posts what they hear off the scanner, police
yeah,
scanner. They put it on there. But this was for Magnum Pro, and this was at the Ramada Inn. And me being me getting good heel heat. I'm in a stable called the Coalition. And I'm not gonna lie, before the shows, I would have a little bit of liquid courage with the boys, drink some beer, take some shots.
yeah.
Um, we noticed these bikers in there, kind of just giving a little bit of haggle here and there. I'm on my microphone and I'm just finding anybody I could feed off of. And this guy, tall, kind of beefy dude, big beard, he had tats everywhere, and he has a tattoo, literally the word shit on his forehead. I'm like, look at this guy. He's gonna try to tell me what to do. He literally got shit on his forehead. You Mickey Mouse tricycle wannabe biker coming in here, and all his friends are there. And then me, I was like, what do you think you are? Some type of Hell's Angels? You're a Boy Scout. Well,
Oh,
and it was at that moment, it was like the Anchorman. Go fuck yourself, San Diego. And everyone was like, what did he just say? What did he just say? So we're wrestling, and I'm like doing my thing. As I'm wrestling, they kind of leave to go to the back. Phones start popping out, and they're like doing this stuff. And then I go in the back of the locker room, and this big old Peter Griffin commentator looking guy, he's like, Pat, you gotta get out of here. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, those are the Hells Angels. I was like, what?
oh shit!
Yeah, I was like, those are Hell's Angels. And they're talking right now. They're calling their boys and they're getting their guns and they're coming here right now.
Oh
And
my god!
God bless them, the promoter, no longer here today, but Jason Strife, great independent wrestler too. Uh, he's like, Pat, yeah, we should probably call the cops. I'm like, what? I'm like in my gear. We call the cops. They hear Hell's Angels. Are you Pat Powers? Yeah. Hey, you're coming with us. Well, let me go get dressed. No, you're not. I'm in my wrestling gear, and this was kind of a cool, like, fuck yeah, good old fashioned heel heat.
Yeah,
I was like, what about my car? They're like, leave your car. I give my keys to my buddy. Uh, they get me in the back of the squad car, and I'm in my full wrestling gear. Woo! And they get me out of there. And it made like Omaha Scanner, like something on the lines of like wrestler calling 911, Hell's Angels, alcohol's involved. But yeah, that was a big one. So yeah, I haven't told that
oh,
story in a while because I was like, oh, let me have some time to pass. But yeah, that was a big one. So that was like some rowdy Piper shit right there.
yeah, dude. Oh my god,
Yep.
that is wild. Holy shit, man! And that reminds me of like if you watched ECW back in the day, like there would be riots outside of the arena because of who won or Bubba Ray Dudley just running his mouth.
Oh yeah, Heat Wave, what 99 of just
Mm-hmm.
that infamous promo.
Yep.
Yeah, man,
Yep.
that I started to really respect ECW like in my later years. Started to watch it. So I think I'm all caught up now. But I'm like, man, I really wish I got the opportunity to watch ECW younger.
Yeah, that's wild, man. That is wild. So do so now. How has your character developed now?
It has gone from, the president to the veteran. From the veteran, there was a moment just real quick. I was in a tag team, and he was using the cutter. I started using the cutter, and he sued me and garnished my wages. And I had to like work for him. I was a bum, so I was a bum for a little bit, and then I beat him, and I got the rights to the cutter and got better. And then I did like a hybrid of like kind of looking like at everyone says it was like, oh, it's Hollywood Pat Powers. Like kind of I was still doing it, but like
Yeah.
I dropped all the kind of the veteran stuff and I started using this thing called Yum Yum Get Some. It got over. It's a good catchphrase. I was drunk one time and there was a sushi joint called Yum Yum Roll, and I was like, I don't
Mhm.
know, thinking of like catchphrases, and it was like, John Cena would say, "You want some? Come get some." And I was like, "What about Yum Yum Get Some?" And I was like, I'm gonna try it one time, and it like got over like so they follow it back kind of like if you smell what the rock's cooking, and now just kind of keep on evolving. Yeah, I'm just just me now. You got to keep there's a lot of younger guys now in the locker room, so you got to
Yeah.
have kind of keep involving and like got to change it up a bit, not try to be stale and the same old same old.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if you had three opponents, like you could choose any opponent, any time frame, from any promotion, dead or alive, who would you choose to go to wrestle against?
Yeah, so oh man, like my first one right now, easy, just because of the what he brings to the table and how over he got not needing WWE. In my opinion, he's the best unsigned independent wrestler right now, Matt Cardona. That's my number one.
Absolutely.
Number one. That would just be like the niche. He's the guy right now, in my opinion, not signed. And I'm a big action figure toy guy, so there's
Yeah.
that aspect of it. Matt Cardona for sure. Second would be Brian Danielson
Yeah.
for sure. And then a third probably would have to be. I mean, Owen Hart. Owen Hart would be fun. Owen
Yeah.
Hart would be fun. And then there's like
Absolutely.
other
Go ahead.
ones to it. Wrestling some of the guys like my size and my style. I always think it'd
Mhm.
be fun to wrestle Brian Kendrick. You know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Um, yeah. Speaking about Matt Cardona, real quick, I grew a massive amount of respect for him because not just he made his name on independence, like absolutely blew up with his work with John Moxley and then in GCW. But on top of that, too, whenever you see these lists of men and women that get cut from WWE, he's the first one online that says you can take this as a blessing or you can take this as a curse. You
Right.
determine your future, and it's like holy shit, that is
Right.
amazing.
And it's like almost to this point, it's like if he were to go back to WWE, would it come back as Zack Ryder? Because Matt Cardona has, in my opinion, surpassed what Zack Ryder's ever done. So it's like, what do you do? Um, but yeah, those are the two guys that come to mind. It will him and Cody, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
that like, all right, I'm gonna do this to show you otherwise.
yeah, absolutely. And I think that there's another name that's coming up that got released maybe a year ago, and that's Indy Hartwell, and she's absolutely took the ball and ran with it. And
Yeah,
anywhere she steps her foot in, she's putting on a hell of a performance.
yeah, I like her too. I like enjoying her stuff, but yeah, back to GCW. I started really following and liking them because of Matt Cardona, and then like watching guys like Effie and all that fun stuff that they're just doing out there. I was like, man,
Yeah, I like GCW. I really like Mance Warner. I there's just something about him. He reminds me a lot of like a smaller JBO or like
okay,
Terry Funk. Um, I really like MLW. I've been watching that a lot because Jacob Fatu cut his teeth there, And
Yep.
I'm a massive Jake Batu fan. Love that man to death. And I'm starting to follow Booker T's promotion.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's pretty fun.
So much wrestling out there. It's insane.
Yeah,
And
it's, when AEW popped off, that's when all the other independent promotions ended up getting raised up too, which was great.
I think it's a possibility. It's like, gosh, are we kind of living in the territory days again?
Yeah,
People can make a living without being in WWE. And then, you
yeah,
got the Impact deal with WWE. Now, WWE with AAA. And then, like you said, MLW and GCW. And yeah, and I'm really, really, really big fan of NWA. I
yeah,
love watching them. They got some good guys in there. Colby Carino, of course.
yeah.
He does some good things. But yeah, I really enjoy NWA. That's a fun little deal too.
Absolutely, absolutely. So moving forward, we're going to step away from your career and more of like some of the things that you enjoy. So, what is your favorite finishing move?
Mm, I mean, being biased, I really like the cutter, but I mean, if I'm really, my really was a fan of the Tombstone, Undertaker locking that in and how he would perfect it, even though
Yeah,
like the old story of Hogan's like, "Oh, you broke my neck, brother." Didn't even like touch at the time, but I like that. I like the choke slam. Kane's choke slam was really fun to watch because it was
yeah,
different. It was
yeah.
different. Good old fashioned clothesline too,
Oh
but
yeah, yeah.
probably the crossface, that was a fun one. Just how you could get it on anybody, and just how
Mhm.
Benoit would do it, but then Daniel Bryanson added a little flair to it. So yeah,
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of big guys in the choke slam, right? So like Undertaker, Kane, Big Show. I loved Big Shows because when he had him up, he held him there, and then he
yeah,
used the force to bring it down. Right? It wasn't like a motion, boom. He just
yeah.
literally held him up there, and then just boom, let momentum take him.
Oh yeah. A underrated lost finisher was Scott Steiner's Steiner driver. It was like
Oh,
he'd come up for a tombstone and sit out with it. I'm like, man, I think Rikishi took it briefly, called it the Island
mhm.
Driver, but that
Yeah,
was a gnarly ass move.
yeah, yeah. I'm the older I get, the more I enjoy certain moves. I enjoy the clothesline. I am a massive fan of suplexes, and if it can be performed correctly, right, like that thing can look devastating. Like Kurt Angle, some of the best suplexes I've ever seen. Brock, you've got Eddie when he would do the triple
Three.
vertical,
Yep.
yeah, the three amigos, and then Benoit with the triple Germans, right, like I don't think that anybody can throw a German like he used to, like those guys used to.
Right. Like, yeah, you have Suplex City with Brock, right? But Brock was just throwing people.
Yeah,
Benoit,
yeah,
he would the snap, the pop of the hips. He was getting it. He was getting people over. But like, it's crazy. Like everyone has like these waves of like overused moves. Like I
hmm,
always call it the oh man, brain farting here. Take the arm, spin it, and then the lariat from behind.
oh
Okada,
yeah, yeah,
Rainmaker. Yeah, you
Randy,
get the Rainmaker phases, and then you'll get like the super kick phases, or you saw destroyers all the time. But now you don't see destroyers all the time, so they come like little waves. Like, all right, let's protect these. Let's like not let anybody do it anymore. And then
yeah.
like it was
It's
interesting when Kevin was bringing the stunner. I'm like, all right, I'm cool with that. No one's
mhm.
using it.
Yeah, I really enjoy that WWE is allowing the Destroyer to be a finishing move for Penta. Absolutely love it because that is a move that has been taken and abused over a 5-10 year period, and
Yeah,
it should that should be a match ender right there.
yeah, she kills somebody when
Yeah.
Petey Williams, right? When he introduced that, I was like, "What is this? What
What are
is
those
this?"
moves?
and then you
Yeah.
just saw it all the time. I'm like, oh man.
Yeah. And then people are kicking out of it, and it's like, well, then you've just diminished the value of a phenomenal move.
Right, right. And then how can I take it seriously when it's just is it going to
Yeah.
put somebody down? Like, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
you know, big match feels or whatever WrestleMania moments. Yeah, sure, acceptable to kick out, but like all the time, like it seems like that. I feel like WWE is doing that. Started catching on. Like, all right, just because that's their finisher, they're probably going to kick out. They're going to do some transitions. Then there'll be another one. I'm like, oh, but hopefully WWE gets it right where it's like, all right, that's done. That's it. That's game over.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the other moves now that is like is that moment move is the spear, because you see so many people doing it now, and it's
Yeah,
like insane.
I, yeah, I agree. But they also, I feel like I considered the spear how it is now, how you had the choke slam in the Attitude Era. You had
Yeah,
Kane, you had Takers, you had Big Shows. Romans is different than Braun's, you know, but they're all kind of somewhat different. But man, Braun, he's bringing that fucking spear.
that dude, my I Roman, in my opinion, has hit two good spears in his whole career, and that was the one where he jumped across like down the ramp and speared,
Yeah,
I think, Kane. And then when he concussed Shane McMahon in Survivor Series
yep, yep.
versus Braun does not have a bad spear.
No,
Period.
no. I'm really
Period.
like Braun. I hope he's a champion within 2 years.
Yeah, absolutely. That man is put.
See, that's like I could turn off, pro wrestler mode and then get into like actually as a fan, but like I hope like there's some type of like evolution formed with Seth Rollins and Braun, get a couple other guys,
Yeah,
Bronzier, Batista, that'd be
yeah,
that'd be pretty dope.
yeah. I've heard a lot of people throwing different names out. Who do you think would join that stable as a third or fourth member?
I mean, Austin Theory would be a good one, but he'd
I
be
said
like your
that too.
Randy Orton. But if things are turning to where he might be face, maybe not. Uh, then you just got to get some musclehead, or maybe I don't know if you get it like your Ric Flair, get kind of a seasoned guy in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I would like to see a call up and like somebody completely unexpected. I think Ethan Page would be great in that position.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. I've thrown around the Austin Theory idea, but also one of the other things that I'm seeing is they're setting up a massive heel turn that, unless you're paying attention, you don't really see, and that's Sami Zayn.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, because when Sammy came back and he was congratulating Jay, he was staring at that title, right? And then this past Monday, when Punk and Jay were in the ring with chairs, Sammy was standing in the back, like Seth did when he turned on the Shield. And I was like, oh my God,
that'd be
this
a
is
good one. That'd be a good one. I could tell you also too could be a good one. Maybe not in that, but it's never been. I don't feel like WWE likes guys when they get over on themselves when they're not meant to get over. Um, Who's the guy? Brain fart, man. Who's the guy that comes out
oh,
with the girl with the hourglass and the
Karrion
Celtic?
Cross.
Karrion Cross, man. The shit he's getting over on himself organically, doing his
Yeah.
own promos. And then have you noticed he's kind of like doing the devil's advocate stuff when he's
Hmm.
doing backstage promos? He makes his hair the way, or like does little things to mirror the guy he's talking to, like completely copied AJ Styles' hair, and
Yeah.
he's getting over. But then he just give him like a throwaway match with him. I'm like, man, Karrion, either a Triple H is going to catch on, like, all right, we got to do something with this guy, or he's going to leave and be a mega star outside and then come back.
Yeah. So um, this past weekend, or maybe last week, he made a video on Instagram and Twitter or X, whatever it's called now.
Water your grass deal.
No,
Oh,
no, he was backstage And he was like, so many people come up to me, whether I'm at like a concert or I'm just out meeting fans, and they ask if they can get my shirt, and I tell them, hey, it's in WWE shop, and they're like, no, we want it now. And the man is like the top merch seller. He's beat out Orton and Cena.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, and he hasn't had a high profile match.
No, then he had that random WrestleMania 40 Philly street fight, but other than that, nothing. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, no, I don't. During the Vince day, Vince didn't like when people got themselves over. It was kind of like making your own storyline. But we'll see what
yeah.
Triple H feels about it. So
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Pat. So before we shut down shop, man, I always ask I ask all of our guests this. I kind of stole it from Chris Van Vliet because I love that man to death. But what are three things that you are grateful for today?
oh yeah. First and foremost, my two daughters. I love them deeply. We've gone through some tough times, with personal stuff. Divorce between uh, their mom and myself, and you know, we became closer. And I only get them 50% of the time, so I very make it a point to make about them every single time that I'm here and listen to them, love them, and yeah, love them deeply. They're my guiding light for sure. Second one, my health. There's a lot of people that have gone younger than us. We lose people left and right. Especially in the military, due to the illnesses or 22 vets a day. Uh,
Hmm.
I'm very very thankful for that. And uh, my third one, I'd probably say my friends. I hold them deeply. I'm not I'm a good guy, but I'm kind of tough to handle sometimes. You could probably know of a military guy, and they never gave it up on me, so they're still here. Got a close little circle. So yeah, those are probably my three things that I'm grateful for sure.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Pat, I want to thank you for taking a little bit of time out of your busy day and sitting and talking with us and sharing your story. Where can we find you, man?
Yeah, so you could find me. Well, first foremost, I would like to plug my independent wrestling promotion that I wrestle for, PWP Live. You can find them on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. It's based locally out here in Omaha, Nebraska. This is a big accomplishment for, I would say, any independent professional wrestling companies. But on May 28th, we're having our 20th anniversary. Yeah, 20th anniversary. That's huge. Yeah, you can find me on pretty basic Instagram, Pat Powers, Facebook, Pat Powers. I'm wrestling Joey Daniels in the main event for the PWP title. Opportunity to be the first ever four-time PWP champion. So yeah, that's where you can find me in PWP Live here out here in Omaha, Nebraska.
Hell yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Pat, once again, thank you for spending a little bit of time with us and sharing your story, sharing your expertise. It is I'm very grateful for it.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. It's nice to catch up as always, and I'm glad you're doing good and all that good stuff. And mad props for having me out here.
Absolutely, absolutely. And everybody, until next time, just remember people are fake, wrestling is real.